The snow had nearly erased their tracks when the cowboy reined in his horse. 3 girls stood behind their mother, thin, silent, eyes already older than winter. "All these girls have no father?" he asked, barely raising his voice. The men holding papers hesitated. The mother didn't answer. She only pulled the children closer, waiting to see whether the law or conscience would speak first. The cowboy glanced at the seals, the guns, then the road back to town. He nodded once. "Good. Come with me." Because sometimes mercy isn't running away. It's standing still and forcing a town to choose. Are children a debt or a family? Subscribe, watch to the end, and comment the name of your city. Snow cut sideways across the road, sharp as grit in the eyes. Elowen ran until her breath burned, and the sound behind them, iron on stone, hooves too close, ate the quiet. Vera had Maisie's hand. The little one stumbled, boots too big, wool soaked through. Nell went down hard and came up with blood on her lip, didn't cry. Elowen felt the weight of 3 lives pull at her arms like river current. She did not stop. The house showed itself at the bend, a squat of timber and smoke. Not a town, no bell, just a stove breathing. Elowen changed direction without thinking. A choice makes itself when there's no room for 2. She took the steps 2 at a time and hit the door with her shoulder. Inside, a man stood with a ladle in one hand and nothing else ready. He looked past her first, always the road first, then down. He saw the rope burn on her wrist, the girls' mouths cracked white, the doll blackened at the hem. "All of them yours?" he asked. "Yes." "Good." He stepped aside. Inside. The door shut. The sound behind them skidded to a stop. Elowen counted. 1, 2, 3. All breathing. Steam lifted from the pot. The man set the ladle down and slid a bench back with his boot so the girls could sit. He didn't ask names. He didn't touch them. He moved the way men move when they've learned that sudden kindness can scare children worse than blows. Maisie stared at him. She held the doll to her chest and began to count beans under her breath, fingers tapping the cloth. Elowen heard it and felt something tear loose. "I won't leave them," a thought cut short, like a prayer swallowed. A knock came. Not a fist. Knuckles, polite. Elowen's hand went to her skirt pocket, where nothing lived anymore. The man lifted a finger, "Stay," and went to the door. "Evening," a voice said. Paper rustled. "There's a woman owes. 3 children with her. Debt follows." The man didn't move. "Not here." "Law says..." The man leaned into the frame so the wind had to work around him. "Law don't come through my door." Silence stretched. Snow hissed against wood. The paper rustled again, slower this time, like someone smoothing a thing they intended to keep. "Tomorrow then," the voice said, "with proper marks." The footsteps went. The road swallowed them. The man barred the door and stood there a beat longer, listening to nothing. When he turned, his eyes softened at the edges, as if he'd taken off a coat inside himself. "Eat," he said. They ate with hands that shook. Elowen watched the girls before she took a bite. Vera ate fast, scanning the room, mapping exits. Nell hummed a hymn she half remembered, low enough to be air. Maisie dipped bread in broth and counted. Elowen tasted salt and ash and let it be enough. "Ma'am," the man said, and it wasn't the word that steadied her. It was the way he said it without asking for more. "You can stay the night." Elowen nodded. She didn't say thank you yet. Gratitude before safety feels like signing something. Outside, a bell rang once far off. Sunday somewhere. Christmas close enough to smell pine when the wind turned. On the mantel, a stub of candle burned in a saucer, wick bent. Someone had set a sprig of green beside it. Elowen saw it and felt a small, foolish hope try to stand up. She pushed it back down. Hope makes noise. The man brought blankets. He laid them out with care, tucking corners like he knew how to keep heat in a body. He spoke to the girls as if they were weather. There's a loft, warmest. To Elowen, quieter. I'll take first watch. She took the loft. She sat with her back to the wall and her hand on the rung. Vera slept light, eyes opening at every sound. Nell slept with her mouth open, him gone. Maisie pressed her face into Elowen's ribs and breathed. Elowen let her eyes close for the space of a breath, then another. Below, the man moved. He checked the latch, the window, the stove. He set his boots by the door, toes out. He placed a rifle where it leaned easy. He stood a half step forward of the table, a habit that made sense only to him. The night went thin. Snow stopped. Sound carried. Elowen heard it before the man did. The paper again, somewhere near, not at the door. She felt the house hold its breath. A shadow crossed the window. A peg knocked, light, testing. The man's hand found the rifle. He didn't raise it. He said nothing. He waited until the shadow moved on, then longer. When he finally exhaled, Elowen realized she had been counting with Maisie without knowing it. Morning came gray and brittle. Elowen stood at the table with a scrap of paper she'd taken from her bodice and a stump of pencil she'd kept like a talisman. She smelled the envelope before she saw it. Wax. Cheap. The seal was wrong. Too smooth. She held it close, then farther away, then smiled without joy. It's false, she said. The man looked at the paper, then at her. You sure? Yes. He nodded once as if that settled something. Then we don't burn it. Elowen tucked it into the salt barrel beneath the crust. They'll be back. I know. Vera came down the ladder and stood beside the man without being told. He shifted so she was behind him, not by much. A half step. Enough. They'll bring more, Elowen said. I know, he said again, and this time it sounded like a promise made to himself. Outside, the wind changed. Somewhere a church bell tried to find its voice through the cold and failed. Elowen thought of the green sprig on the mantel and felt the ache of it. Let there be a room, she thought, and hated herself for asking. The man set bread on the table and poured water. He didn't ask where she'd come from. He didn't ask what the paper said. He asked the only thing that mattered now. You running today? Elowen looked at the girls. Vera shook her head before Elowen could answer. Nell met Elowen's eyes and waited. Maisie counted and stopped at 10. No, Elowen said. The word felt like stepping onto ice and finding it hold. We stay. The man's mouth twitched, not a smile. He went to the door and opened it wide, so the cold came in and the road could see them. He stood there a long moment, as if marking the ground with his shadow. Then they'll have to come through me, he said. The road was empty. For now. Elowen put her hand flat on the table to feel the wood. It was scarred. It was solid. She pressed the pencil into her palm until it hurt, and let the hurt anchor her. I choose this, she thought, and the thought cut clean. Behind them, the bell rang again. One clear note this time, carried true, Christmas was close enough to be dangerous. The morning held its breath. Snow lay thin as flour across the yard, marked by the night's testing steps that did not quite dare the door. Elowin watched Silas trace them with his eyes, not following, only measuring. He moved as if the land spoke first, and he answered second. He split wood with quiet strokes, each swing a decision that did not need applause. The sound traveled clean. It told anyone listening that the house was awake. Inside, bread warmed on the stove. Elowin cut it small so no one would rush. Maisie sat on the bench and counted the slices as they appeared, tapping each with a knuckle. When the count went wrong, she started over. Elowin let her. Order is a kind of prayer when you don't know the words. Silas came in and set a sack down, flour, a little sugar, salt. He didn't say where he'd gone. He didn't need to. The paper would know. Paper always knows. "There's talk," he said. Not to Elowin exactly. To the room. "They'll say you stole." Elowin buttered bread with care. "They say that about anyone who won't sign." A pause. He watched her hands, the way she kept the knife flat, saving the crusts. "You read it," he said. "Yes." "Anything real?" "Enough to hurt," she said, and slid the envelope back under the salt. The barrel swallowed it whole. "Not enough to stand." Silas nodded. "Then we buy time." Outside, a wagon passed without stopping. Wheels creaked like old joints. Elowin felt the pull to the window and resisted it. Looking makes you a target. She finished the bread and set a cup of water by Maisie, then one for herself. The cup shook. She steadied it with both hands. "I can do this," she told no one. A rider came by near noon, slow, eyes curious. Silas stepped onto the porch and stayed there until the rider lost interest. The cold bit at his coat, and he didn't pull it closer. Elowin saw the line he drew with his body and understood. Standing is a language. They ate again. Elowin rationed without comment. She taught by doing. When Maisie reached for a second piece, Elowin slid half to her instead. Maisie accepted it and counted. When she finished, she tucked the doll under the bench, hiding it like a secret that could be saved. "Ma'am," Silas said, and waited until Elowin looked up. "Town's 2 miles." "I know. There's a bell on Sundays." "I heard." "They don't ring it for everyone." Elowin wiped her hands. "I don't need the bell." Silas watched her a moment longer. "They'll make you need it." That was the pull. The small hook under the rib. Elowin felt it catch and turned away before it drew blood. Not yet. The afternoon went thin. Elowin sorted the cupboard and found old ledgers, numbers gone pale with time. She read the margins, the places where ink bled and was blotted. The man had kept careful records once. Care leaves tracks. She followed them. Names repeated. Fees that slid sideways. She did not say them aloud. She did not need to. Knowing is a weight you carry until you can set it down hard. A knock came just before dusk. Not the polite one. A fist, testing strength. Silas opened the door enough to show his face. Wind pushed at him. Puss. A man stood there with a badge that caught the light and didn't give it back. He spoke to Silas, not to Elowin, even when his eyes found her. "Evening," the man said. Heard you took in trouble. Silas said nothing. Law says a debt follows the debtor. Elowen stepped forward before Silas could stop her. Law says papers must be true. The man smiled like a crack in ice. You got papers? I do, she said, and did not show them. Silas shifted, half a step. The man noticed and recalculated. Sunday, he said. Bring what you've got to the church. We'll see. He left without another word. When the door closed, the house exhaled. Elowen pressed her palm to the table until the grain bit back. I am afraid, she thought, and felt better for naming it. Silas poured water. You didn't have to. I did, she said. They won't stop until they hear me. He considered that. They don't hear women. They hear numbers, she said, and children. Another hook set, deeper this time. Night came with a thin moon. Elowen climbed to the loft and lay with Maisie tucked under her chin. The child counted stars through a knot in the wood until sleep took her. Elowen listened to Silas move below, the soft inventory of safety. She counted with him and stopped when it hurt too much. In the dark, she thought of the green sprig by the candle. She thought of the bell. If I go, she thought, I stand where they want me. The thought scratched. She let it. Morning broke clear and cruel. Elowen wrapped the girls and stepped outside with Silas. The road felt longer with daylight on it. A dog barked somewhere and was quieted. They walked. Town rose in a scatter of wood and smoke. Faces turned. Elowen kept her eyes level. She did not rush. She did not smile. She held Maisie's hand and felt the counting start and stop. The church door was open. Inside, the air held candle wax and cold stone. Someone had set a wreath of pine on the pulpit, rough-tied. Elowen noticed the way it leaned. Nothing is straight when it's done in a hurry. Silas stood at the back, hat in his hands. Elowen walked the aisle with a steadiness she borrowed from the sound of her own boots. She placed the envelope on the pulpit without opening it. Paper makes a sound when it knows it will be seen. Sunday, someone said, and it was not a greeting. Elowen faced them. I won't preach, she said. I'll show. She spoke of numbers without naming them, of marks that didn't match, of seals that lied when warmed. She did not beg. She did not accuse. She held the paper up and let the room decide if it wanted to look. A murmur moved like weather. The badge man watched from the aisle, jaw set. Elowen felt the pull to say more and didn't. Silence is also a tool. Silas caught her eye once. It was enough. A child cried, somewhere near the door, and Elowen's heart stuttered. The sound stopped. The moment passed. Another hook missed, just barely. When it was done, nothing was settled. That was the point. Elowen gathered the envelope and turned away before anyone could claim it. Outside, the bell rang once, clean. Someone had decided it could. They walked home with the sound in their backs. Halfway there, a rider cut across the field, slow, too slow. Silas angled his body and kept walking. Elowen matched his pace. Maisie counted and reached the end and started again. At the fence, Silas stopped. He set his hat on a post and looked at the land like it had spoken. They'll come tonight, he said. Elowen nodded. I know. He took a breath that went all the way down. You still staying? She looked at the house, at the scarred table waiting. the salt barrel keeping its secret. She thought of the bell and the wreath leaning. I choose this, she thought again, and felt the cut open wider, cleaner. Yes, she said. Silas picked up his hat. Then we'll make them choose too. The road watched. The sky held. Christmas edged closer, not as promise but as a test. They worked before the sun found them. Silas set his tools out like a quiet argument. Hammer, spikes, wire. Nothing fancy, nothing borrowed. Elowyn took inventory without writing, counting by feel. Wood, nails, a half sack of grain, water enough if the creek didn't freeze again. She moved the way she had learned to move when there was no room for mistakes. Fast hands, calm face. Maisie sat on the step and counted the nails as Silas drove them. 1, 2, 3, tap, tap, then back to 1 when the wind startled her. Elowyn let the counting stitch the morning together. Order keeps panic from learning your name. Silas dug shallow and wide along the fence line, not to stop a man, only to slow a horse. He set wire low where snow would hide it. He moved the barrel so it blocked the back door when rolled, a trick learned the hard way. Elowyn noticed where he placed his feet when he turned, always leaving a line open behind him. Standing is also a map. They'll test, he said, not looking at her. They already did, Elowyn said, and lifted the sack higher on the hook so mice would have to think twice. A wagon passed on the road without stopping. Too early for trade. Too slow for work. Elowyn felt the pull to watch it go and didn't. Looking is consent. Inside, the table took a new scar when Silas set the barrel down hard. Elowyn ran her fingers over the old marks and found comfort in them. A house that shows its hurt is easier to trust. She slid the envelope deeper into the salt and tamped the crust back into place. Paper makes promises it can't keep. Salt keeps better ones. A knock came near noon. Light, almost friendly. Elowyn's hand closed around the pencil stump before she knew she'd reached for it. Silas lifted a finger, stay, and opened the door a hand's width. A man stood there without a badge, hat in his hands. He looked at the ground when he spoke. Just saying, he said. Folks are talking. Silas said nothing. They say you're harboring. Silas let the door drift wider so the man had to look up. They say a lot. The man swallowed. There's reward. For who? For information. Silas smiled without warmth. You got some? The man shook his head and backed away. He did not look back. Elowyn let her breath go. Not yet, she told herself, and felt the words sink. The afternoon brought cloud and a brittle cold that made sound carry. Elowyn sorted the ledgers again, this time for patterns instead of names. She found one where fees rose in winter and fell in spring. People are cheaper when they're cold. She closed the book and pressed her thumb into the margin until it ached. I see you, she thought, and hated that seeing felt like victory. Silas came in with a coil of rope and set it by the stove to soften. He watched Elowyn read without comment. When she looked up, he nodded once. Agreement without applause. It steadied her. At dusk, the wind shifted. The creek spoke under its skin. Elowyn lit the candle on the mantel and set the sprig closer to the flame. The green darkened, scent lifting, small and sharp. She did not pray out loud. She counted breaths until the sound of the room returned. Maisie asked, "Will they knock?" Elowen crouched and met her eyes. "Maybe." Maisie nodded and began to count again, faster this time. Elowen rested her palm on the child's back and felt the ribs move. "I am here," she thought, and let the thought cut. The first shot cracked the air and did not hit the house. Testing. Silas didn't move. He waited for the second. It didn't come. Footsteps approached slow, then stopped at the fence. A voice carried, smooth as oiled paper. "Evening." Silas stepped onto the porch and stood where the lantern painted him clear. "Go on," he said. "Just business." "Not here." A laugh. "You'll wish it was." Silas did not answer. Silence is a tool when you can afford it. Something moved at the side of the house. Elowen heard it and didn't look. She rolled the barrel into place with a soft grunt and slid the bench behind it. Maisie pressed her face into Elowen's skirt and counted. Elowen counted with her. 1, 2, 3, all breathing. The window at the back rattled. A hand showed, then withdrew, startled by wire singing under snow. A curse cut short. Another laugh, harder this time. "Tomorrow," the voice said, "with marks." They went. The night held. Elowen felt the tremor start and stop like a misfiring engine. "I am afraid," she thought again, and stayed. Morning came gray and thin. Tracks braided the yard like a bad dream. Silas traced them without following, reading weight and hesitation. 2, he said. "Maybe 3. Elowen poured water and set it to boil. "They'll bring paper. They always do." She reached for the ledgers and stopped. "If I go," she said, not looking at him, "they'll expect me to bend." Silas rinsed his cup and set it down. "If you don't, they'll expect you to hide." The hook set deep. Elowen closed her eyes for a count and opened them. "I won't hide." Silas nodded. "Then we choose the place." They walked to town with the cold in their pockets. Faces watched from doorways. Elowen kept her pace even. She felt the old urge to explain and killed it. Explanation is a kind of begging. At the church, the door stood open again. The wreath leaned a little more than yesterday. Someone had added a ribbon, faded red. Faith does not need polish to be used. Inside, the air held a murmur. The badge man stood near the aisle, hands folded, eyes sharp. Elowen set the envelope on the pulpit and did not open it. She spoke softly, so the room leaned in to hear. "Paper can lie," she said. "Ink can be warmed. Seals can be taught." A rustle, a cough. "I won't read names," she said. "I'll show you where the numbers break." She turned the envelope and pressed it to the candle flame just enough. The wax softened. The seal slid. A sound like a sigh moved the room. Elowen stopped. She did not go further. Too much proof feels like spectacle. Silas stood at the back, hat low, body angled. Elowen felt him there like a wall she could lean against without touching. A voice rose. "What do you want?" Elowen met it. "Time." The badge man smiled thin. "Time costs." Elowen nodded. "So do mistakes." The bell rang once, not from the tower but from the back. A handbell someone had found courage enough to shake. The sound surprised them all. Elowen felt it land where fear had been sitting. Outside, the sky lowered. They walked home faster. Halfway there, a rider crossed the field again, closer this time. Silas changed direction, a hair. Elowen matched him. Maisie counted and stumbled on 9 and started again. At the fence, the rider stopped. He tipped his hat and smiled. "Evening." Silas didn't answer. "You got people talking," the rider said. "That can go 2 ways." Elowen stepped forward before Silas could. "Which do you prefer?" The rider laughed and turned his horse. "Tonight," he said. "We'll see." They barred the doors before dark. Elowen set the candle low and placed the sprig beside it. She tucked Maisie under the bench with the doll and the counting. She stood where the room could see her and felt the room answer. A rock hit the roof and skittered away. Another struck the fence and rang wire. Silas lifted the rifle and did not fire. Waiting is also a weapon. Elowen felt the old thought rise, run, and cut it clean. "I choose this," she thought, and the cut burned and steadied. The knocking began, not at the door but all around, a lesson taught the hard way. Silas shifted, half step, full step, then still. Elowen breathed until the sound of her own heart matched the room. Outside, someone laughed. Inside, Maisie reached 10 and smiled, as if 10 were enough to save them. The night pressed close. The house learned to breathe with them. Christmas edged nearer, not as comfort, but as a line drawn in the cold. They came with daylight this time. That was the first difference. Snow still lay thin, but the sun made it honest, every track a confession. Elowen saw the men before she heard them, dots moving where the field dipped. She did not wake the girls at once. Panic wakes faster than need. Silas stood at the window, hat on, rifle resting easy against the sill. He did not lift it. He watched the way a man watches weather, counting what it will cost him. "They're not here to knock," he said. Elowen nodded. She tied Maisie's scarf twice and once more, snug enough to be a promise. Vera was already up, eyes sharp, hands steady. Nell hummed under her breath, a tune with no words left in it. Outside, the men split. 2 went wide, 1 straight on. A hammer rang once, then again. Not at the door, but at the ground. Elowen felt the sound in her teeth. Red stakes went into the snow along the fence line, 1 by 1. Careful spacing, deliberate. They marked the land as if it were already sold. Silas stepped onto the porch. The cold took him, and he let it. "You're trespassing," he said. A man with pale gloves smiled. He held a rolled paper like a baton. "We're posting notice." "Post it somewhere else." "Law says—" Elowen came out beside Silas. The sun caught the rope burn on her wrist, pale against skin. "Law says marks must be served to the person named," she said. "And these are wrong." The man's smile thinned. "Ma'am, this isn't a discussion." "It is," she said, "because you're standing on it." A murmur moved the men. One shifted his feet, finding wire too late. The line sang. The horse shied. A curse snapped short. Silas did not move. "That's your warning," he said. The man in gloves looked at Elowen again, longer this time, measuring the set of her shoulders, the way she didn't flinch. "You like making noise," he said. "Noise draws eyes." Good, Elowen said. I want witnesses. That set the hook. The man laughed once, sharp. Then we'll give you a crowd. They left the stakes and rode off slow, the way men do when they plan to return. The field held the red like a rash. Elowen's hands shook when the sound of hooves faded. She let them shake. I am afraid, she thought, and kept moving. They pulled the girls inside. Silas set to work, cutting the wire loose where it would be seen and leaving the rest buried. Elowen packed a bag she hoped not to carry. Bread, water, the pencil stump, the ledgers wrapped tight. She did not take the envelope from the salt. Some things are safer hidden than held. By noon, the first onlookers came. A wagon slowed. A pair of men stopped at the fence and pretended to argue about nothing. Elowen stood where she could be seen and split apples for the girls. Clean cuts, equal shares. Vera watched the watchers. Nell sang soft and sweet, the kind of sound that makes men remember kitchens. A woman came close enough to whisper, "You ought to go." Elowen met her eyes. Where? The woman's mouth worked. She looked at the red stakes and crossed herself without meaning to. Christmas makes gestures slip out of people. She backed away. The badge man arrived mid-afternoon, boots clean, hat brushed. He did not cross the fence. "You're causing unrest," he said. Elowen smiled without warmth. "So does hunger." "Take it to court," he said. "Show me one," she said. His jaw set. Sunday passed. "And you did nothing," Elowen said. Silas shifted, half-step. The badge man saw it and recalculated. "Tonight," he said, "we'll clear it." "That's not how notice works," Elowen said. He tipped his hat and walked away. The hook pulled hard then. Tonight. Elowen felt the weight of the girls settle like stones. I choose this, she thought, and the thought burned. They ate early. Elowen rationed with care. Silas set the rifle where it leaned easy and checked the back window twice. He did not speak. Words would only add heat. Dusk came thick. The red stakes darkened. The field went quiet in a way that meant company. Elowen lit the candle and set the sprig close again. The green had dried and curled. Faith dries if you don't tend it. She breathed until the room steadied. The first knock was a stone against the door. Then another. Then a voice loud enough for the road. Last chance. Silas opened the door a crack. You're done here. A paper unfurled in the cold. Wax gleamed. Clear by sunrise, the voice said, or be cleared. Elowen stepped forward. Read the name. The voice laughed. Read it yourself. She took the paper and held it to the candle without thinking. Wax softened. The seal slid. The name beneath was wrong. Not hers. Close. Close enough to steal. Elowen held it up. This isn't me. The men shifted. Someone swore. Silas spoke, quiet as a blade. You heard her. The voice hardened. That won't save you. Elowen folded the paper and handed it back. It won't save you either. They left, laughter trailing like smoke. The night pressed in. Footsteps circled. A window rattled. A shot cracked the fence post and buried itself in snow. Testing again. Silas did not fire. Waiting costs less than regret. A shadow slipped near the barn. Elowen saw it and moved without thinking, rolling the barrel, bracing the bench. Maisie counted faster, breath hitching. Elowen crouched and pressed her forehead to the child's hair. Stay, she thought, and the thought cut clean. A scream cut the air, someone else's, sharp and brief. Then nothing. Silence fell heavy. Silas waited a full count before moving. He went to the barn slow, rifle low. Elowen followed to the door and stopped, heart loud. She did not look. Looking would spend something she might need. Silas came back with a man leaning on him, blood dark against snow. A wire had done its work. The man groaned and tried to pull free. Silas did not let him. He sat the man down and bound the leg with clean pressure. "You didn't have to," the man said through teeth. Silas tied the knot. "You stepped where you shouldn't." The man laughed weak. "They'll hang you for this." Silas looked at him. "They'll have to catch me." Elowen watched from the doorway, the pencil stump biting her palm. "This is the line," she thought. "We crossed it." The men took their wounded and went. The night loosened its grip, not much. Elowen cleaned blood from the floor with snow and lye, slow and thorough. You clean so it doesn't come back in your dreams. Near dawn, a horse whickered close. Elowen felt the pull and held. Silas stood ready. A rider stopped at the fence alone. He did not dismount. "You've got people talking," he said again. "You've got proof?" Elowen stepped into the pale light. "Enough." "Bring it," he said. "Today." "Where?" "Anywhere but here." That was the new hook. Elowen felt it set. If she left, the house would breathe without her. If she stayed, the paper would rot in salt. She looked at Silas. He did not speak. He did not nod. He waited. "I'll go," Elowen said. Silas's jaw tightened. "You don't go alone." She shook her head. "They want me bent, not you." He watched her, long. "You come back." "I will," she said, and meant it the way you mean a vow you might have to break. Morning broke thin and cold. The red stakes stood like accusations. Elowen wrapped the girls tight and kissed each head once. She took the ledgers and the pencil and left the envelope buried. She stepped onto the road alone. Behind her, the house stood scarred and breathing. Ahead, the town waited, teeth hidden. "I choose this," she thought again, and the cut burned bright. Christmas was close now, close enough to demand an answer. Elowen did not hurry. The road punished hurry. Snow squeaked under her boots, each step a sound that could be counted. She kept her eyes level and her hands empty. The ledgers rode against her ribs, wrapped tight, the pencil stump warm as a pulse. Behind her, the house did not follow. Ahead, the town waited with its doors half open, like mouths. A rider passed without slowing. He tipped his hat and smiled as if this were a parade. Elowen felt the pull to look back and didn't. Looking back turns you into a shadow. At the edge of town, she stopped long enough to breathe. The bell did not ring. It watched. Smoke lay low. Christmas wreaths showed where people had remembered and stopped remembering. Green browns quickly when it's cold. She walked straight to the largest door and knocked once. The sound went in and didn't come back. Inside, the air held ink and dust and something sweeter that had gone wrong. Men sat and stood as if waiting for weather. The one with pale gloves leaned against a desk, paper ready. The one with the badge stayed near the wall, eyes sharp, hands folded. Elowen set the ledgers down. "I'm here," she said. She did not say why. "About time," the pale gloves said. "Sign." "No." The word landed flat and stayed there. "Then we'll proceed," he said, already reaching. Elowen slid the ledgers forward an inch. "Read." The badge man frowned. "Those aren't—" "They are," Elowen said. "And they break." She opened one ledger and turned pages without haste. She pointed with the pencil stump, tapping once, then again. "Here. Winter fees double, spring fees halve. Names change, but hands don't." A murmur moved. Someone laughed, short. Someone else coughed. "Coincidence," Pale Gloves said. Elowen nodded. "Show me one." Silence pressed. The badge man shifted his weight. Elowen felt the hook set, light but sure. "You're out of your depth," Pale Gloves said. Elowen met his eyes. "I know how to read." That drew a smile, thin as wire. "We'll see." They moved her to the church. Of course they did. Truth likes a roof, and so does spectacle. The door stood open. Cold lay on the pews like a test. The wreath leaned. Someone had straightened it and failed. The bell rang once, clean. Not for her, for the room. Elowen stood at the front and waited until the room finished arranging itself. She spoke without raising her voice. "I won't preach," she said. "I'll count." She counted aloud. Dates, fees, names that didn't line up. She stopped before it became a sermon. Silence did the rest. A voice rose. "You're lying." Elowen turned the ledger so the light hit the ink. "Then show me where." No one did. The badge man cleared his throat. "These matters are cold," Elowen said. "So are children." A ripple moved. Someone shifted on a pew. Someone else looked at the door. Pale Gloves stepped forward. "Enough. We'll adjourn." "Not yet," Elowen said. She took the envelope from her coat. Not the one from the salt. A different one. She held it near the candle. Wax softened. The seal slid like a lie learning to walk. The name beneath was wrong. Close. Close enough to steal. She stopped before it burned. Too much proof turns into fire. "That's forgery," someone said. Elowen nodded. "Yes." The bell rang again, not from the tower but from the back, a handbell shaken by a woman who did not look up. The sound cut through. Pale Gloves smiled without humor. "You think this saves you?" "I think it slows you," Elowen said. He laughed. "Tonight." That was the hook. Elowen felt it catch. Tonight means no sleep. They let her leave with the ledgers. That was the mistake. They thought the house would do the rest. Outside, the road breathed. Elowen did not run. She kept her pace even, each step an argument. Halfway back, the rider cut across the field again, close enough to smell leather. He smiled. "You made noise." "Good," Elowen said. "They'll come." "I know." "For the house." Elowen stopped. She turned then. "Not without witnesses." The rider laughed and rode on. The field swallowed him. The house rose where it had always been, scarred and breathing. Elowen did not knock. She opened the door and stepped into warmth and eyes. Silas stood by the table, hat in his hands. He did not ask. He watched her face and nodded once. "They're coming," she said. "When?" "Tonight." He set the hat down. "We'll be ready." They worked without talking. Elowen set the ledgers high and the candle low. She moved the bench, rolled the barrel, checked the latch. She set water to boil and did not say why. Order is a kind of armor. Maisie counted nails as Silas set them. When the count broke, she started over. Elowen pressed her forehead to the child's hair and breathed until the room found its rhythm. "I am here," she thought, and let the thought cut. Dusk came with a thin moon. The red stakes darkened. The wire sang once, twice, as snow shifted. Silas took his place where the lantern painted him honest. He did not hide. A voice called from the field. "Last chance." Silas answered without raising his voice. "Go on." Paper rustled. "Clear by sunrise." Elowen stepped forward. "Read the name." A laugh. "You know it." "I do," she said. "And it isn't me." A rock hit the door and fell. Another struck the fence and rang wire. The testing began. Silas did not fire. Waiting costs less. A shape moved at the side. Elowen saw it and rolled the barrel. The bench slid. The room tightened. Maisie counted fast. Elowen counted with her. 1, 2, 3. All breathing. A shot cracked the night and took a fence post. Splinters flew. Someone laughed. Someone else swore. Silas lifted the rifle and held it. He did not shoot. He waited for the second shot. It came and went wide. The men came closer. Feet in snow. Breath. Paper again. Closer now. Waved like a dare. Elowen opened the door herself and stepped onto the porch. Cold bit. She let it. "Witnesses," she said, loud enough for the road. "You brought none." "Step aside," the voice said. "No." A pause. The hook pulled hard. "Then you choose," the voice said. "I already did," Elowen said. Silas moved then. Half step, full step, body a wall. The rifle rose, not to kill, but to say enough. A hand showed at the window and vanished with a curse. Wire sang. A horse screamed. Someone went down. Not dead. Hurt. The men swore and dragged him back, boots slipping. They did not laugh now. "Tonight," the voice said again, thinner. "Any night," Silas said. They left with their wounded. The night loosened a notch. Elowen closed the door and slid down it until she sat on the floor. The pencil bit her palm. "I choose this," she thought, and felt the cut burn clean. Near dawn, a single rider came to the fence and stopped. He did not dismount. "You've got eyes," he said. "You've got proof." Elowen stood. "Enough." "Bring it," he said. "Today." "Where?" "Anywhere but here." The hook set again. Elowen felt it and did not flinch. She looked at Silas. He did not speak. He waited. "I'll go," she said. "You don't go alone," he said. She shook her head. "They want me bent." He watched her, long. "You come back." "I will," she said, and meant it the way you mean a promise you'll bleed for. Morning broke thin. Elowen wrapped the ledgers and took the pencil. She kissed Maisie's head once. She stepped onto the road. Behind her, the house stood, Red stakes accusing, wire singing soft. Ahead, the town waited. Christmas was close now, close enough to demand an answer. Elowyn walked before the frost let go. The road held its breath, the kind of quiet that remembers everything. She carried the ledgers under her coat, the pencil stump tucked where her thumb could find it without looking. Behind her, the house did not move. Ahead, the town did not hurry to meet her. She did not take the straight way. Straight ways teach people your spine. She cut along the creek where ice had learned to lie and the sound of water made company for her thoughts. I am here, she told herself, and felt the thought take hold. The first door opened without a knock. The man inside pretended he had been waiting for someone else. He did not invite her in. He did not stop her from stepping past. The room smelled of ink and coal and last night's courage. Put it down, he said. Elowyn set the ledgers on the table and did not open them. Read. He looked at the door, then saw at her hands. This won't end the way you think. I know, she said. Read. He opened the book and frowned. His finger traced a line and stopped. He traced it again, slower. He did not look at her when he said, You've made trouble. Elowyn nodded. Trouble was already here. The bell rang once, clean, not the tower, the back room. Someone had decided it could. They moved her again. Always movement when men want the ground to forget. This time it was the office by the tracks, where noise could be blamed on trains that never came. The pale gloves were there, paper ready, smile practiced. You keep walking into rooms you don't own, he said. Elowyn placed the envelope beside the ledgers. She did not open it. Then stop selling them. The smile tightened. You don't understand the market. I understand cold, Elowyn said, and names. She opened the ledger and pointed, tapping once, then again. These fees double in winter. These names change, but the hand stays. This seal is taut. Pale gloves laughed. You think this makes you safe? No, she said. I think it makes you seen. The hook set. He leaned closer. Seen by who? Elowyn did not answer. Silence leaned back. A door opened behind them. A man with a badge stood there and did not come in. He watched the ledgers like a man watches water rise. We'll adjourn, he said. Not yet, Elowyn said. The badge man's eyes flicked to the door again. Enough. Elowyn took the envelope and warmed the seal until it sighed. She stopped before it slid. Too much proof makes enemies brave. That's forgery, Pale Gloves said. Yes, Elowyn said, and it's not mine. They let her go with the books. That was the second mistake. They thought the house would finish the work. Outside, the air cut clean. Elowyn did not run. She walked until the edge of town thinned and the field took over. A rider crossed far off, watching. She kept her pace. Looking back spends something you might need. At the fence, she stopped. The red stakes accused the snow. Wire lay quiet, waiting. The house breathed. Silas stood on the porch, hat low. He did not ask. He watched her face and nodded once. They'll try another room, Elowyn said. Silas's mouth moved like he had swallowed something sharp. Tonight. Elowyn nodded. I choose this, she thought, and felt the cut burn steady. They worked, not frantic, exact. Silas set the wire where snow would teach it to sing. Elowyn moved the barrel and the bench and set water to boil again. Not because she knew, but because boiling is a promise. She put the ledgers where light would find them, and the candle where shadow would not. Maisie sat on the step and counted pebbles. When the count broke, she started again. Elowen rested her palm on the child's back and breathed until the room found its shape. I am here, she thought, and let the thought anchor. Dusk came early. The red stakes darkened. The first voice carried without hurry. Clear the house. Silas stepped forward. Go on. Paper rustled. A seal tapped the air. Law, the voice said. Elowen came beside Silas and did not raise her voice. Read the name. A laugh. You know it. I do, she said. And it isn't me. The hook pulled hard. Someone moved at the side. Wire sang, thin and true. A horse snorted and shied. A curse snapped short. Silas did not fire. Waiting as a weapon, a rock hit the roof and skittered away. Another struck the fence and rang wire louder, testing again. Elowen rolled the barrel into place. The bench slid. The room tightened. Maisie counted faster. Elowen counted with her. 1, 2, 3. All breathing. A shot cracked the night and took a fence post. Splinters flew. Someone laughed. Someone else swore. The sound did not belong to courage. Silas lifted the rifle and held it. He waited for the second shot. It came and went wide. He waited again. A hand showed at the back window and vanished with a yelp. Wire sang. A body hit snow and rolled. Not dead. Hurt. That mattered. Silas moved then. Not fast. Not slow. He bound the leg with clean pressure and let the man curse. You stepped where you shouldn't, he said. They'll hang you, the man said. They'll have to catch me, Silas said. They took their wounded and left, laughter gone. The night loosened a notch. Elowen cleaned blood from the floor with snow and lye. You clean so it doesn't come back in your dreams. She washed her hands until the water ran clear and did not look at the pencil biting her palm. Near dawn, a single rider came and stopped at the fence. He did not dismount. You've got eyes, he said. You've got proof. Elowen stepped into the pale light. Enough. Bring it, he said. Now. Where? Anywhere but here. The hook set again. If she left, the house would breathe without her. If she stayed, the paper would rot in salt. She looked at Silas. He did not speak. He waited. I'll go, Elowen said. You don't go alone, Silas said. They want me bent, she said. Not you. He watched her, long. You come back. I will, she said, and meant it the way you mean a vow you might have to bleed for. Morning broke thin. Elowen wrapped the ledgers and took the pencil. She kissed Maisie's head once and stepped onto the road. Behind her, the house stood scarred and breathing, red stakes accusing, wire quiet. Ahead, the town waited with its doors half open. Christmas was close now, close enough to demand an answer. Elowen took the ridge path where snow broke clean and left no argument. The ledgers rode hard against her ribs. The pencil stump warmed and cooled with her breath. She kept her hands empty and her eyes level. When the wind lifted, It carried a sound she did not trust. Iron far off, then nothing. She did not turn. The town met her without hurry. Doors stood half open. Windows held faces that knew her now. She stepped past them like they were weather. "I am here," she told herself, and let the thought cut. The first room was wrong. Too clean. Too quiet. A desk waited with paper already set. Elowen did not sit. She set the ledgers down and did not open them. "Sign," a voice said from the side. "No." The word landed and stayed. They moved her again. Always movement when men want the ground to forget. This time it was the small office near the tracks, the one that smelled of coal and ink and old apologies. The bell was close here. You could feel its shadow. "Read," Elowen said, and slid the ledger an inch. A man opened it and frowned. He traced a line and stopped. He traced again, slower. "This isn't—" "It is," Elowen said, "and it breaks." The hook set light. Someone shifted. Someone else coughed. A hand reached for the envelope at her coat. Elowen caught the wrist and let go at once. Touch is also a language. "Don't," she said. The man smiled thin. "You're bold." "I'm cold," Elowen said. They took her to the church. Of course they did. The door stood open. Candle smoke lay flat. The wreath leaned and someone had tied the ribbon tighter, as if force could fix it. The bell rang once, clean, not the tower. The back, a handbell, shaken by someone who did not want to be seen. Elowen stood at the front and waited until the room finished arranging itself. She did not raise her voice. "I won't preach," she said. "I'll count." She counted winter fees and spring mercy. She counted names that changed and hands that didn't. She stopped before it became a sermon. Silence did the rest. A voice rose. "You're making trouble." Elowen nodded. Trouble was already here. Another voice, sharper. "What do you want?" "Time," Elowen said. "That costs." "So do mistakes." The hook set deeper. The bell rang again, softer. The room leaned. A man at the back laughed once, short. "Tonight," he said. Elowen felt it land. Tonight is a knife you feel before you see. They let her leave with the ledgers. That was the third mistake. They believed the house would finish the work. Outside, the road breathed. Elowen did not run. She walked until the edge of town thinned and the field took over. Halfway back, a rider cut across, close enough to smell leather. He smiled like a man who knew a secret. "You don't get to win," he said. Elowen kept walking. "Neither do you." The house rose scarred and breathing. Silas stood on the porch, hat low, eyes steady. He did not ask. He nodded once. "They said tonight," Elowen said. Silas set the hat down. "We'll be ready." They worked exact. No wasted motion. Elowen set water to boil because boiling keeps promises. She placed the ledgers where light would find them and the candle where shadow would not. She rolled the barrel and slid the bench. She moved the sprig closer to the flame and let it be what it was. Maisie counted pebbles and stopped at 9 and started again. Elowen rested her palm on the child's back and breathed until the room found its rhythm. "I am here," she thought, and let the thought anchor. Dusk came thick. The red stakes darkened. The wire lay quiet, listening. The first sound was laughter, carried. Then paper. Then the knock that isn't a knock. wood struck with intent. Silas opened the door a crack. "Go on," he said. "Clear the house," a voice said. "Law." Elowyn stepped beside him. "Read the name." A laugh. "You know it." "I do," she said. "And it isn't me." The hook pulled hard. Someone moved at the side. Wire sang thin and true. A horse snorted and shied. A curse snapped short. Silas did not fire. Waiting is a weapon. A rock hit the roof and skittered. Another struck the fence and rang wire louder. Testing again. Elowyn rolled the barrel. The bench slid. The room tightened. Maisie counted faster. Elowyn counted with her. 1, 2, 3, all breathing. A shot cracked the night and took a fence post. Splinters flew. Someone laughed. Someone else swore. Courage sounded different. Silas lifted the rifle and held it. He waited for the second shot. It came and went wide. He waited again. A shape moved at the back window. Wire sang. A body hit snow and rolled. Not dead. Hurt. That mattered. Silas moved. Not fast. Not slow. He bound the leg with clean pressure. "You stepped where you shouldn't," he said. "They'll hang you," the man said. "They'll have to catch me," Silas said. They took their wounded and went. The night loosened a notch. Elowyn cleaned blood with snow and lye. You clean so it doesn't come back in your dreams. She washed her hands until the water ran clear and did not look at the pencil biting her palm. Near dawn, a single rider came and stopped at the fence. He did not dismount. "You've got eyes," he said. "You've got proof." Elowyn stepped into the pale light. "Enough." "Bring it," he said. "Now." "Where?" "Anywhere but here." The hook set again. If she left, the house would breathe without her. If she stayed, the paper would rot in salt. She looked at Silas. He did not speak. He waited. "I'll go," Elowyn said. "You don't go alone," Silas said. "They want me bent," she said. "Not you." He watched her long. "You come back." "I will," she said, and meant it the way you mean a vow you'll bleed for. Morning broke thin. Elowyn wrapped the ledgers and took the pencil. She kissed Maisie's head once and stepped onto the road. Behind her, the house stood scarred and breathing, red stakes accusing, wire quiet. Ahead, the town waited with its doors half open. The bell rang once, clean. Christmas was close now, close enough to hear who answered. Elowyn felt the road change before she saw it. Snow thinned. Sound carried. The ridge dropped toward the flats where tracks overlapped like arguments no one wanted to finish. She slowed and let the cold make her honest. The ledgers pressed her ribs. The pencil stump warmed and cooled with her breath. "I am here," she told herself, and felt the thought cut steady. She did not take the straight way back. Straight ways teach men your spine. She cut toward the creek, where ice hid noise and water kept secrets. A rider moved on the far edge of the field, not following, only keeping the distance a man keeps when he wants you to know he's there. She did not look. Looking spends something. At the bend, a figure stepped out of willow shade and held up a hand. No badge, no smile, just a coat pulled tight and a horse that knew how to stand still. "Morning," the figure said. Elowyn stopped. "It is." You've got what they want. So do they, Elowen said. A pause. The creek spoke under ice. The hook brushed her ribs and did not set. They're tired, the figure said. You're tired. Let's finish it. Elowen shifted the ledgers higher. Read them. The figure laughed once, short. I can't. Then step aside. The figure did not move. The distance held. Elowen took one step, then another, not fast. The figure watched her boots, not her eyes. That told her enough. Behind her, the sound of hooves grew and faded, a test. The figure glanced back, then returned its eyes to her hands. Elowen moved again, just enough to make the creek sing under ice. The figure flinched and stepped back. The path opened. Elowen went through without touching. She walked until the field took over, and the house rose scarred and breathing. The red stakes accused the snow. Wire lay quiet, listening. Silas stood on the porch, hat low, eyes steady. He did not ask. He saw her face and nodded once. They tried to cut me off, Elowen said. They always do, Silas said. She set the ledgers down and took the kettle off the stove. Boiling keeps promises. Maisie sat on the step and counted pebbles. When the count broke, she started again. Elowen rested her palm on the child's back and breathed until the room found its rhythm. I am here, she thought, and let the thought anchor. The afternoon thinned. A wagon slowed and did not stop. A man stood at the fence and pretended to tie a shoe. Elowen split apples with clean cuts, equal shares. Order teaches patience. Near dusk, the bell rang once, clean. Not the tower, the back. Someone had courage enough for that much. Christmas makes courage slip out of people like breath. Silas checked the wire in the back window twice. Elowen moved the barrel and slid the bench. She set the candle low and placed the sprig close. Green had dried to brown. Faith dries if you don't tend it. A knock came that was not a knock. Wood struck with intent. Silas opened the door a crack. Go on, he said. Paper rustled. Clear the house. Elowen stepped beside him. Read the name. A laugh, thinner now. You know it. I do, she said. And it isn't me. The hook pulled. Someone moved at the side. Wire sang thin and true. A horse snorted and shied. A curse snapped short. Silas did not fire. Waiting is a weapon. A rock hit the roof and skittered. Another struck the fence and rang wire louder. Testing again. Elowen rolled the barrel. The bench slid. The room tightened. Maisie counted faster. Elowen counted with her. 1, 2, 3. All breathing. A shot cracked the night and took a fence post. Splinters flew. Someone laughed. Someone else swore. Courage sounded different. Silas lifted the rifle and held it. He waited for the second shot. It came and went wide. He waited again. A shape moved at the back window. Wire sang. A body hit snow and rolled. Not dead. Hurt. That mattered. Silas moved. Not fast. Not slow. He bound the leg with clean pressure and let the man curse. You stepped where you shouldn't, he said. They'll take the child, the man said through teeth. The words landed heavy. Elowen felt the cut open wider. No, she thought, and the thought burned. They won't, Silas said. They will, the man said, smiling without joy. Debt walks. They took their wounded and went. The night loosened a notch, then tightened again. Elowen did not sleep. She sat with her back to the wall and her hand on the rung. Maisie counted and stopped and started again. Elowen breathed until the sound of her heart matched the room. I choose this, she thought, and felt the cut steady. Morning came gray and thin. Tracks braided the yard like a bad dream. Silas read them without following. 2, he said. Maybe 3. Elowen poured water and set it to boil. They said the child. Silas's mouth moved like he had swallowed something sharp. They talk. They choose words, Elowen said. So do we. The bell rang once, farther off. Sunday somewhere else. Christmas close enough to smell pine when the wind turned. They did not wait. Elowen wrapped the ledgers and tucked the pencil where her thumb could find it. She set Maisie's scarf twice and once more. She kissed the child's head and felt the counting start and stop. Silas walked them to the fence and stopped. He did not say goodbye. Goodbyes make promises you don't need. Elowen took the road alone. She did not hurry. The road punishes hurry. At the edge of town, doors stood half open. Windows held faces that knew her now. She stepped past them like weather. I am here, she told herself, and felt the thought cut. The first room was wrong, too clean, too quiet. A desk waited with paper already set. Elowen did not sit. Sign, a voice said. No. They moved her again. Always movement when men want the ground to forget. This time, it was the church. Of course it was. The door stood open. Candle smoke lay flat. The wreath leaned. Someone had tied the ribbon tighter, as if force could fix it. The bell rang once, clean. The back room. A handbell shaken by someone who would not be seen. Elowen stood at the front and waited until the room finished arranging itself. I won't preach, she said. I'll count. She counted winter fees and spring mercy. She counted names that changed and hands that didn't. She stopped before it became a sermon. Silence did the rest. A voice rose. Give us the books. Elowen shook her head. Read them here. Another voice, sharper. Or we take the child. The hook set deep and tore. Elowen felt the world narrow to breath and ink. I am here, she thought, and let the thought anchor. You take a child, she said softly, and you lose the room. Laughter, brittle. You think you own it? I think it owns you, Elowen said, and warmed the seal just enough to show the lie beneath. She stopped before it slid. Too much proof turns into fire. A murmur moved. Someone crossed themselves without meaning to. Christmas makes gestures slip out of people. The bell rang again, harder this time. The room leaned. Outside, a shout cut the air. Another. Elowen felt it before she heard the words. They've got her, a voice yelled. By the creek. The room broke. Elowen moved without thinking. She ran, breath tearing, cold cutting. The road punished hurry, and she took it anyway. At the bend, men stood with a child between them, scarf crooked, counting broken. Maisie's eyes found Elowen and steadied. Silas was there, somehow, hat low, rifle down. He stood a half step forward, a wall. "Let her go," he said. Paper rustled. "Sign." Elowen stepped forward and did not raise her voice. "Read the name." A laugh. "You know it." "I do," she said. "And it isn't me." The hook pulled hard. Silas shifted, half step, full step, then still. Elowen felt the cut burn clean. "I choose this," she thought. She reached into her coat and took out the ledgers. She held them up where everyone could see. "You want paper," she said. "Here." She dropped them into the creek. Ink bled. Pages drank. Names ran. Silence hit like a held breath. "Get her!" someone yelled. Silas moved then. Not to kill, to end it. Wire sang. A man went down. Another let go. Maisie ran and Elowen caught her, breath and counting tangling. They did not follow. Paper was gone. The debt had nowhere to walk. Elowen held the child and felt the counting slow. "I am here," she thought, and let the thought cut and heal at once. Behind them, the bell rang once, clean. Christmas was close now, close enough to choose who it heard. The creek kept the ledgers. It took the ink first, then the names, then the confidence. Pages swelled and tore loose, drifting like pale fish that forgot how to swim. Elowen stood in the cold, with Maisie locked against her ribs, and felt the weight lift and replace itself with something sharper. "I chose this," she thought, and the thought cut clean. Men shouted. Orders tangled. Someone splashed after the paper and came up with nothing but cold and curses. Silas stood where the bank rose and did not give ground. He did not raise the rifle. He held it the way a door holds its hinge. "Get back," a voice said. Silas didn't answer. Silence took the space and kept it. Elowen backed away one step at a time, counting breath with the child, until the counting slowed. Maisie's scarf hung crooked. Elowen fixed it without looking at the men. Looking would spend something. The bell rang once, clean, far enough to be hope and close enough to be trouble. Someone had decided it could. Christmas makes decisions slip out of people. They did not chase, not yet. The creek took the last of the paper and went back to speaking under ice. Elowen turned when the path opened and walked, not fast. The road punishes hurry. At the fence, the house breathed. Red stakes accused the snow. Wire lay quiet, listening. Silas opened the door and stepped aside. Elowen went in and set Maisie on the bench and felt her own hands shake. She let them. "They'll come," Silas said. "Yes," Elowen said, "but not with paper." Silas nodded once. He set the rifle down and rolled the barrel back into place. Elowen set water to boil because boiling keeps promises. She washed the child's hands until the cold left them and did not look at her own. The afternoon thinned. A wagon slowed and did not stop. A man stood at the fence and pretended to count fence posts. Elowen split apples with clean cuts, equal shares. Order teaches patience when patience has nowhere to sit. Near dusk, the bell rang again, softer. Not the tower, the back. Someone was still brave enough for that much. Silas checked the wire and the back window twice. Elowen moved the bench and set the candle low. She placed the green sprig close to the flame and watched it curl. Faith dries if you don't tend it. She did not preach to it. The knock that came was not a knock. Wood struck with intent. Laughter followed, brittle. Silas opened the door a crack. Go on. You burned your papers, a voice said. That won't save you. Elowyn stepped beside him. They were never mine. Debt walks, the voice said. Not without legs, Elowyn said. The hook set. Someone moved at the side. Wire sang thin and true. A horse snorted and shied. A curse snapped short. Silas did not fire. Waiting is a weapon. A rock hit the roof and skittered away. Another struck the fence and rang wire louder. Testing again. Elowyn rolled the barrel. The bench slid. The room tightened. Maisie counted faster. Elowyn counted with her. 1, 2, 3. All breathing. A shot cracked the night and took a fence post. Splinters flew. Someone laughed. Someone else swore. Courage sounded different when it borrowed a gun. Silas lifted the rifle and held it. He waited for the second shot. It came and went whood. He waited again. A shape moved at the back window. Wire sang. A body hit snow and rolled. Not dead. Hurt. That mattered. Silas moved then. Not fast. Not slow. He bound the leg with clean pressure and let the man curse. You stepped where you shouldn't, he said. They'll take the house, the man said, smiling without joy. Silas tightened the knot. They'll have to stand on it. They took their wounded and went. The night loosened, then tightened again like a fist that remembers. Elowyn cleaned blood with snow and lie. You clean so it doesn't come back in your dreams. She washed her hands until the water ran clear and felt the pencil stump bite her palm. I am here, she thought, and let the thought anchor. Near dawn, a single rider came and stopped at the fence. He did not dismount. You made noise, he said. Good, Elowyn said. You burned proof. I showed it, Elowyn said. Then I chose. The rider laughed once, thin. Tonight, he said, we finish. Silas stepped into the pale light. Any night. The rider tipped his hat and rode off. The field swallowed him. Morning broke thin. Tracks braided the yard like a bad dream. Silas read them without following. More, he said, and closer. Elowyn poured water and set it to boil. They'll bring the room, she said. Silas looked at the house, the scarred table, the wire waiting to sing. Then the room chooses. They did not wait. Elowyn wrapped Maisie tight and taught her a new count. 5 breaths in, 5 out. She taught it by doing. The child learned fast. They walked to town with the cold in their pockets. Faces watched from doorways. Elowyn kept her eyes level. Explanation is a kind of begging. At the church, the door stood open. Candle smoke lay flat. The wreath leaned and the ribbon had slipped. Someone had stopped fixing it. The bell rang once, clean. The back. A handbell shaken by someone who did not want to be seen. Men filled the pews and the aisles and the space where standing becomes pressure. Elowyn stood at the front and waited until the room finished arranging itself. I won't preach, she said. I'll answer. A voice rose. Where are the books? Elowyn met it. Gone. Laughter rippled sharp. Then you're done. Elowyn shook her head. You still have names. A pause. The hook brushed ribs. You keep them, Elowen said. We'll keep the house. You think you can bargain? A voice said. I think you can choose, Elowen said. Silas stood at the back, hat in his hands, body angled. He did not speak. The room felt him anyway. A man stepped forward and held up paper that looked like authority and smelled like lie. Clear by sunrise, he said. Elowen nodded. Read the name. The man laughed. You know it. I do, Elowen said. And it isn't me. The bell rang again, harder. Someone crossed themselves without meaning to. Christmas makes gestures slip out of people. Outside, a shout cut the air. Another. The room leaned toward the sound like iron toward a magnet. They're at the house, a voice yelled. The room broke. Men moved. Boots scraped. The bell fell silent. Elowen did not run. She walked until the cold cut, and then she ran anyway. The road punished hurry, and she took it. I choose this, she thought, and felt the cut burn. Smoke showed before the fence did, not fire. Smoke from breath and lanterns and too many men standing where they shouldn't. Silas was there, somehow ahead of her, hat low, rifle down. He stood a half step forward, a wall. Go on, he said. Paper rustled. Clear the house. Elowen stepped beside him. Read the name. A laugh, thinner now. You know it. I do, she said. And it isn't me. The hook pulled hard. Someone moved at the side. Wire sang. A horse screamed. A curse snapped short. Silas did not fire. Waiting held. A torch lifted and wavered. Elowen felt the old fear rise and cut it clean. No fire, she thought, and stepped forward into the light. You burn this, she said, and you burn the room. The words landed heavy. Men shifted. Someone lowered the torch without meaning to. Silas lifted the rifle, not to kill, but to end it. A shot rang and took a lantern from a hand. Glass shattered. Darkness fell, and with it courage. Men stumbled. Wire sang. A body hit snow. Another dropped the torch and it hissed out. Silence pressed in, thick as wool. Elowen stood and breathed until the room found her again. I am here, she thought, and felt the thought heal what it cut. They left in pieces. Not broken enough. Enough. Dawn came slow. The red stakes lay where they'd fallen, no longer upright. Elowen pulled one free and snapped it across her knee. Wood breaks when you ask it right. Silas stood with her at the fence. He did not smile. He did not speak. Behind them, the bell rang once, clean. Christmas was close now, close enough to decide what it meant to belong. The stakes lay broken where they fell, red dulled to brown by melt and boot scuff. Elowen stacked them by the fence and felt the wood give the way fear does when it's handled plain. Silas watched the road, not the pile. Roads remember longer. They didn't celebrate. Celebration spends tomorrow. Elowen set water to boil because boiling keeps promises. Silas checked the wire and the latch because checking is a kind of faith. Maisie counted breaths, 5 in, 5 out. And when she lost the count, she began again without looking for help. Elowen saw it and let the sight steady her. She's learning, she thought, and felt the cut ease. By late afternoon, the sky lowered. Snow threatened and held back, a fist that hadn't decided. Faces watched from the bend in the road. A wagon slowed and did not stop. Elowin split apples with clean cuts, equal shares. Order teaches patience when patience has nowhere to sit. They'll come with fire, Silas said. Elowin nodded. Then we take away the dark. She set candles low in the windows so the house glowed like it had nothing to hide. The green sprig lay dried and curled. She placed it near the flame and let it be what it was. Faith doesn't need polish to work. The bell rang once, clean, not the tower, the back. Someone still brave enough for that much. Dusk fell thick. Voices carried louder than they needed to be. Laughter came sharp and then stopped, like men remembering where they stood. A knock hit the door that wasn't a knock. Wood struck with intent. Silas opened the door a crack. Go on. Paper rustled. Clear the house. Elowin stepped beside him. Read the name. A pause. A laugh that didn't travel. You know it. I do, she said. And it isn't me. The hook pulled. A torch lifted and wavered. Elowin felt the old fear rise and cut it clean. No fire, she thought, and stepped into the light. You burn this, she said, voice steady, and you burn the room. The words landed heavy. Men shifted. Someone coughed. The torch dipped and steadied, then dipped again. Silas lifted the rifle, not to kill, but to end it. He fired once and took the lantern from a hand. Glass burst. Darkness rushed in, and with it courage's absence. Wire sang. A horse screamed. A body hit snow and rolled. Not dead. Hurt. That mattered. They scattered and regrouped and tried again. Closer now. Anger loud because fear was louder. A rock struck the door. Another hit the window and skittered. Testing. Elowin rolled the barrel. The bench slid. The room tightened. Maisie counted faster. Elowin counted with her. 1, 2, 3. All breathing. A shot cracked the night and took a fence post. Splinters flew. Someone laughed. Someone else swore. Courage sounded borrowed. Silas waited for the second shot. It came and went wide. He waited again. Waiting costs less than regret. A shape moved at the side. Wire sang thin and true. A man went down hard, breath knocked loose. Silas moved, clean, exact, and bound the leg with pressure that meant business. You stepped where you shouldn't, he said. They'll hang you, the man said, smiling without joy. They'll have to catch me, Silas said. They dragged their wounded back. The night loosened a notch and tightened again, like a fist that remembers. Near midnight, a single rider stopped at the fence. He did not dismount. You made it loud, he said. Good, Elowin said. You burned paper, he said. You didn't burn names. Elowin nodded. Names remember themselves. Dawn, the rider said. We finish. Silas answered without raising his voice. Any dawn. The rider tipped his hat and rode off. The field swallowed him. They did not sleep. Elowin sat with her back to the wall, hand on the rung. Maisie counted and stopped and started again. Elowin breathed until her heart matched the room. I choose this, she thought, and felt the cut steady. When the dark thinned, the bell rang once, clean. Not for victory, for witness. Silas stood at the fence with Elowin and looked at the road. They'll come back, he said. Yes, Elowen said, but not tonight. Behind them the house breathed, candles guttering low. Ahead the town waited, quieter now. Christmas was close, close enough to ask who you stand with when the night chooses back. Dawn came thin and undecided. Snow lay like it was listening. Elowen stood at the window and watched breath turn to fog and vanish. The night had spent itself, but not its memory. I am here, she thought, and let the thought cut quiet. Boots found the road before voices did. Not a crowd yet. Enough to be a promise. Silas read the distance without moving his head. He set the lantern down and left it unlit. Light can wait. They brought the room, he said. Elowen nodded. She set water to boil because boiling keeps promises. She set the ledger's place empty on the shelf where they used to weigh the air. Absence is a kind of proof. Maisie counted breaths and stopped at 7 and began again. Elowen touched the child's shoulder once and took her hand away. You don't hold forever. You teach. The men came to the fence and stopped where the wire would sing if asked. Paper showed. A seal flashed red and dull. Someone cleared his throat like he owned the sound. Clear the house, a voice said. Final. Elowen stepped onto the porch. Cold took her face and gave it back. Read the name. A pause. Paper rustled. You know it. I do, she said. And it isn't me. The hook set. Men shifted. Someone spat. Someone else laughed. Sharp. Then didn't. We'll take the house, the voice said. Elowen looked at the fence posts, the candles ghosts in the windows, the place where the bench had slid 100 times. You can try. Silas stepped forward half a step and stopped. A wall that knows when to be a door. He lifted the rifle and did not aim it at anyone's chest. He aimed it at the space where a lie would need to stand. Last, the voice said. Elowen felt the old fear rise and cut it clean. No fire, she thought, and said it aloud. No fire. A torch lifted anyway. Men learn slow when they learn loud. Silas fired once and took the torch from the hand. It fell and hissed out. Smoke rose and went nowhere. Courage went with it. Wire sang. A horse screamed and pulled back. A body hit snow and stayed down. Breath knocked loose. Not dead. Hurt. That mattered. They surged and stalled and surged again. Anger louder now because fear had lost its cover. A rock struck the door. Another struck the fence and rang wire harder, testing the line. Elowen rolled the barrel. The bench slid. The room tightened. Maisie counted faster. Elowen counted with her. 1, 2, 3. All breathing. A shot cracked the morning and took a fence post. Splinters flew. Someone laughed. Someone else swore. Courage sounded borrowed again. Silas waited for the second shot. It came and went wide. He waited again. Waiting costs less than regret. A shape moved at the side. Wire sang thin and true. A man went down hard, breath gone. Silas moved, clean, exact, and bound the leg with pressure that meant business. You stepped where you shouldn't, he said. They'll hang you, the man said, smiling without joy. They'll have to catch me, Silas said. The line held. Men dragged their wounded back a step, then another. Voices argued. Paper flapped uselessly in cold air. Elowen stepped forward until her boots touched the wire. She did not cross it. "You can leave," she said, "or you can stay and learn." A murmur moved like weather. Someone looked at the house and saw candles burned low and steady. Someone crossed themselves without meaning to. Christmas makes gestures slip out of people. A rider came late and stopped where the field dipped. He did not dismount. He took in the fence, the wire, the men not moving forward. He smiled thin and shook his head once. "Enough," he said, not loud. The men listened. That mattered more than anything. Paper folded. A seal tapped the air and went back into a pocket. Boots turned. Horses took weight and gave it back. The line breathed and held. When they were gone, silence fell like wool. Elowen felt her hands shake and let them. She leaned against the post and counted breath with the child until the counting slowed. "I choose this," she thought, and felt the cut steady. Silas stood beside her and looked at the road. He did not smile. He did not speak. He did not need to. Behind them, the house breathed. Ahead, the town waited, quieter now, watching the space where the line had held. The bell rang once, clean, not for victory, for witness. Christmas was close. Close enough to ask who you stand with when the line finally says no. Morning did not rush them. It came slow and pale, like it wanted to see what would stand without being pushed. Elowen opened the door and let the cold in long enough to prove it couldn't take the room. The fence held. The wire lay quiet. The candles had burned to stubs and left clean circles on the sill, witnesses that did not speak. She set water to boil because boiling keeps promises. Steam rose and found the ceiling and stayed. Silas stood at the table and mended a tear in his glove with thread that had learned patience. He did not hurry. Hurrying is how you miss what lasts. Maisie counted breaths and stopped at 10 and smiled like she had found a new number. Elowen knelt and tied the scarf again, careful not to tie fear into the knot. "I am here," she thought, and the thought no longer cut. By noon, people came, not as a crowd, not as a test, one at a time. A man brought a sack of flour and left it by the fence without asking to be seen. A woman brought candles and said nothing. Someone set a wreath back on the church door and did not pull the ribbon tight. Christmas does not need force to stay. The bell rang once, clean. This time it came from the tower. It sounded different when it wasn't hiding. Elowen walked to town with the child's hand in hers, and the road did not punish her. Faces looked and did not turn away. A voice tried to rise and failed. Silence learned a better use. Inside the church, the room stood open and plain. No paper waited on the desk. No seal warmed itself. Elowen stood where she had stood before and did not lift her chin. "I won't preach," she said, "because habit is a kindness. I'll thank." She thanked the room for standing. She thanked the hands that lowered torches and the boots that stopped. She thanked the bell for ringing when it mattered. She did not ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness comes after memory. A man at the back cleared his throat. "What now?" Elowen met his eyes. "Now we name things right." She named the house as a place, not a prize. She named the fence as a line, not a trap. She named children as children. She stopped there. Naming is heavy work. Outside, Silas waited without leaning. When she came to him, he did not ask what had been said. He looked at her face and nodded once. They went home together. The house breathed and made room. Elowyn set the ledger's empty place back on the shelf and left it empty. Absence can teach. That evening, snow finally chose. It came soft and stayed. Silas split wood and stacked it neat. Elowyn stitched and taught Maisie to count stitches instead of breaths. When the child lost the count, she laughed and started again. At supper, they ate simple and full. No one spoke of paper. No one spoke of fire. Silence learned a new sound. After, Elowyn took the sprig, brown and curled now, and set it back near the flame. It did not green again. It did not need to. Faith doesn't reverse. It endures. Silas stood by the window and watched snow make the world smaller in a way that felt kind. "They'll try again," he said, not as a threat. As weather. Elowyn nodded. "Then we'll answer again." He looked at her then, the long look that asks without asking. She met it and did not look away. "Not because you took us," she said, "because we stayed." Silas breathed out, and the room changed shape. He did not promise what he could not know. He did not ask for what he had not earned. He set another plate on the table anyway. Later, when the fire sank low, Elowyn stepped outside. Snow took her boots and gave them back. She looked at the fence and the wire and the road beyond, and felt the line hold without her touching it. "I choose this," she thought, and the thought felt like a door opening inward. The bell rang once, clean, carried on snow. Somewhere a child laughed. Somewhere a man put down a torch and picked up a shovel. The town breathed and did not choke. Elowyn went back inside. The house answered with warmth. Silas set the latch and left it loose. Maisie counted stitches and reached the end and did not rush to begin again. Christmas came without knocking. It found the place already awake. The house held. The line held. The names held. And when the night asked who belonged, the room did not hesitate.